Hi, my name is Claresa Baggs, and I am so excited to join Pearl today.
Hello, sunshine, good to see you again. Had to walk out to let you back in. Stuck in a storm of a relationship. Lost my fire. Oh, and I forgot about me for way too long. But it's rolled on. Now there ain't no shade around here. Once you leave the clouds, you're under. Ain't it funny how there ain't no rain or clear? Why'd it take so long to leave you in the rearview mirror? Now nobody gonna steal my sunshine or turn my blue sky gray. All I know is at the end of the day, wildflowers grow when there ain't no shade.
Hi, everybody. This is Pearl, and I'm so excited to have you join us today. I love bringing inspirational speakers and authors on. And today we have a special treat because we also have a filmmaker on today. So you are in for some good fun. Sit back and enjoy us as I introduce you to Claresa Baggs. She's an award-winning filmmaker, producer, director, inspirational speaker, workshop leader, author, and humanitarian. As a survivor of sexual, physical, and emotional abuse as a child, Claresa is such a staunch advocate for bringing consciousness of childhood traumas out from behind the cloaks of secrecy and generational abnormality. Boy, do we need some of that. So Claresa uses her many platforms to share her survival story, to inspire hope, encouragement, and give voice to the voiceless. It is her belief that when we open our mouths and speak our truths, it becomes curative balm for both the speaker and the listener. She tells us that she asks God to make me similar to Jesus with the ability to heal from afar. With the ability to even from afar heal. And that is what I do. Her purpose statement, which I love this, is to influence transformation and decrease barriers to the improvement of quality of life for victims and all forms of abuse. And Claresa, I'm so excited to have you today. As somebody myself who was abused by a babysitter as a child, I just love when we have people like you that come forward and teach us that when we share our story, we're inspiring others to speak up as well. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Pearl.
I'm so excited to have you. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Besides everything you just told me, again, thank you for having me. This is such an honor to be here to speak with you and to speak with your listeners. I am a mother of 3, grandmother of 6, been married 34 years. I am originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. I am the eldest on, I keep having an count. Well, 14 kids. No, I'm lying. 16 kids. I'm the eldest. And I am a survivor of child abuse, mental, emotional, psychological abuse. And I use platforms, as you mentioned, that I have to give people the voices that I did not have or that I did not know that I have and that I was not allowed to use as a child. I am a filmmaker and I have a talk show. It's called Still Surviving. And on that talk show, the guests come on to talk about the different adversities that they have experienced in life and how in the midst of that ugliness, they have discovered their purpose in life and how they use that to now help heal other people and to walk boldly in that purpose. And I started doing that. Let me tell you, I chose the name Still Surviving because I do not believe that there's any such thing as I survived with a period on the end. Because everything that we go through in life, whatever the experiences are, forms the lens through which we look at life. And all it takes is some kind of trigger. And you're right back in that time and space. And so we as humans live in a constant state of survival.
Wow, that's so true. I want to get to that, but first I want to go back. Okay, I'm the oldest of 3. I can't imagine being the oldest of 16. And I'm like going, wow, what an example you had to be for a lot of people.
My mom has 12. And my birth father has 3 other kids. Then I did the ancestry DNA. And lo and behold, there was another sister. Woohoo!
Oh my God, that's so funny.
That's how we got there.
I've always wanted to do ancestry DNA for a couple of reasons. The main one is because our oldest was born of our heart. So his birth mom has not been honest with him, who we are 99% sure we found who his birth dad is, but we've always wanted to do that for him. And we didn't do it before he passed in July. So now it's like, do I have anything that has his DNA on it? I don't know. But I know I have done a DNA with him with a different resource. So I might try to reach out to them just to see if we can do anything. Because
they may have the sampling still.
Yeah, because that was one big struggle he had here, was that his birth mom didn't give him confirm who we believe is his birth dad. That's so wild. So wow. And to find one on ancestry.com, that's so crazy. That is so crazy. But I like what you said too about our abuse doesn't go away. There are situations that it will pop up. I was I'm trying to think, I was probably in middle school when mine happened. And it was a babysitter for my parents would go out with another couple, and it was their son that babysat us. And so it was him. And there would be situations where I remember one time my oldest son, we were horsing around and he went to hold me down to tickle me. I'm like, and I just and normally it was never a problem before, but for one reason or another, it triggered me. And they didn't know we had never had conversations about that. He's, Mom, why are you so freaked out? And I had to sit him down and explain to him what had happened. And then he was like, who is that? He was going into power mode. Who is it, Mom? Let me go find him for you. And I'm like, no, it's not going to help anything. But I like that you remind us that it doesn't, that there's not a period in it, that there's no period at the end of that. So talk to us more about that.
And it's funny that you say when you were tickled, it triggered you, because this started with my mother's second husband. And it started with him playing tickle with us. It's all, when you said that, I was like, wow, okay. It started with him playing tickle until it got to let me show you how grown-ups play tickle. But another reason why I did it is because why I even started telling these stories, because 10 years ago, had someone said that I would be telling my story as openly as I do, I'd have called them all liars, because it's a secret, right? But what would happen, let me back up just a little bit for you, because you don't know this. At less than 1 month into my 12th birthday, I gave birth to my stepfather's child. So when people would find out that I have a daughter that's close in age to me, their immediate reaction is always, oh my God, you were hot in the butt. Oh, you were out there chasing boys. I can't believe you had a boyfriend. I can't believe you were doing this and you were doing that. And all I wanted to do was play with baby dolls. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. It was always just coming at me. So the assumption and the onus and the guilt was always placed at my feet. Never took the time to ask, how did an 11-year-old kid get pregnant? And so when that would happen, it would always trigger and bring me back to those times and having that shame that was placed on me. And somehow I knew that, my goodness, girl, you cannot be the only person. You know, as a kid, I thought I was, and I became suicidal. I started having suicidal ideations consistently, because even though there are people who have gone through these things that I have gone through and similar things that you have gone through, often what happens is when someone has come out of, or they think that they have come out of their trauma and they think that they have healed, or if they have healed, they tend to keep that to themselves. So they don't tell their stories. And the tragic thing about them not telling their stories is that they could heal so many other people. Case in point, they're the guy that just passed away, that Twitch. First thing that people were saying was, oh my gosh, he has such a great life. And oh my goodness, this, and oh my goodness, that. And I tell people all the time that when that kind of thing happens, not with him, but with many people who decided to end their lives, the first reactions are, I can't believe they did that. Why didn't they talk to somebody? Why didn't they say anything to them? Not realizing that often this tongue, you know how the Bible tells us that the tongue truly does have the power of life and death. Maybe the person wanted to talk to you. Perhaps they had some kind of, in their life, shame that they wanted to share with you, their best friend, their mom, their sister, their brother, right? But they hear you casting shame and aspersions on the other person who may be going through the same thing. So if you're talking about that person and how horrible and how wretched they are, my gosh, you're going to feel the same way about me.
I love that point. That is such a powerful point to think about, because you're right. And the first thing I thought about when he passed was like, wow, he felt like he had nobody to talk to. I was like, and also too, it showed, like my husband and I have a conversation, like this shows you that it affects anybody. Mental health affects anybody. It doesn't matter who you are.
It doesn't matter who you are, what your status is, how much money you have in the bank, what your position is professionally, personally, religiously. It does not matter.
Right.
He may have not considered that, or the people that he wanted to talk to may have had opinions, but they didn't know that those opinions affected him.
That's so true.
Or any of us. Yes.
Yeah, I remember, and like you were saying too, gosh, at 11 years old, having a pregnancy from an abuse, my heart just was like, I just wanted to hug you and tell you that I'm here, that I just can't imagine an 11-year-old delivering. And then, like you said, like people assume, even the loss of our son, people have been making assumptions. Like they don't think you hear them talking. They don't think it's going to get back to you. I know it gets back to me. And I'm like, shame on you for not asking me. And shame on you for talking behind my back. And all I could think of when you described that was like, here's this 11-year-old girl, this little girl who is like, what the heck has just happened in my world? I didn't ask for this. I just, like you said, I just want to play with baby dolls. And to have to go through all of that and then have people around you throw darts and shame around it. Like you said, why didn't somebody question, why is an 11-year-old? And it's like and I think sometimes we don't question. We're so afraid to question. But I remember when it happened, I didn't say anything, never said anything to anybody. In fact, nobody knew what to tell me about my husband. And when I met my husband, again, it was something we were doing. And I don't remember what it was doing. We were out somewhere walking around and he said or did something that just caught me off guard. And I was like, and I got really quiet. And I grew up in a household where you didn't talk about what was bothering you. If you had an argument, you just didn't talk. And then all of a sudden everything was fine. So that's all I knew. And so finally, when I was learning through Chuck that tell me what's wrong so I know what's happening, I know why you're having this emotion, that's when I shared with him. And I think I told my mom just before COVID hit because I was writing a book and I was writing.
Wow.
Yeah, I never told my parents. In fact, I made sure to go visit her before the book came out so she could hear it. And then, of course, my mom was like, I didn't know. I'm sorry. And I'm like, it's not your fault. You didn't know that he was going to do this. I didn't know. Back then, you were afraid to say anything. It's not like today. I think even so we have our kids are afraid because what they tell, the abusers telling the kids. But it's not so much so for today where our kids are learning to say and speak up for these things. And I told my mom, it's not your fault. I have triggers that come up, but for the most part, I've moved on and I forgive. That's all I can do. And it's not in my hands. When he goes to the maker, he's the one who has to answer for what he did and those sins. And yeah, it was really important for me to make sure I told her. So I never told her. Did you tell your mom? How did it come? She knew. Wow. I can't imagine that.
Like I said, we grew up in a very abusive household, mentally, physically, everything. But yeah, she knew.
Wow.
And the thing about it is when it came out, it was a big old thing. But it's funny, it was a big old thing, but it was also a hush kind of thing. So then all the lies and the covering up and all of that stuff happened. But one of the biggest traumas out of that was having me swear on the Bible that I think he got a clue that I might be pregnant. I had never had my period, so none of this happened. I think when he had a clue, he said, come here, I need you to put your hand on this Bible. And you know what happens if you swear on the Bible and you say you're going to do something or not do something? If you don't do it, what happens? You go to hell, right? So he had me put my hand on the Bible and swear that if anyone asked me if someone touched me, I would say that it was one of his brothers. He picked out a specific brother and said that I would say that it was his brother. So that was you don't have enough time in your podcast for this whole thing here. But that was super traumatic for me.
Yeah. And then, wow, I just sit here in amazement that, how the extent the abuser would go to make sure that nobody knows. It's just right. Yeah. So tell me, Claresa, how, taking that lesson, my gosh, how did you talk about having suicidal thoughts and everything? What made you say, or what was the pivotal point that said to you, I need to do something about this. I need to get help and I want to, and then learn to pay it forward to others.
Well, as far as the suicidal piece of it, I had a dream one night that I was your little kid and your mom's combing your hair and you're on your knees between her knees and getting your hair combed. I had a dream that this was happening and my mom was talking to somebody else beside her. In this dream, this lady came to me and she said, come here. She said, I'm going to show you something. So I got up off my knees and I went to where she was. And she brought me into this room. I'm telling you, I remember this crazy. And it was pitch black. You could see nothing, blacker than black. But on the wall to the left were 3 gold, huge museum-sized paintings. You know how the fancy gold foil paintings, frames? And over each painting was the painting light, the little lights that go above it. And so we start walking towards them. And the very first one that I see is a painting of what is perceived that Satan looks like. So he's sitting in his chair and he's all red and horns and all. So we skirt past that. The second one is a picture of what he perceived Jesus to look like. And the blonde hair, blue eyes, blue halo over his head. This is Jesus. Logic tells me that the very next picture has got to be God. So I'm getting ready to go and see what God looks like. And she puts her hand out. She says, no. She said, you can't see him yet. He's not ready for you. You've got things to do before you can see God. And then I woke up. I remember this dream vividly, but I've never tried to commit suicide or even had suicidal ideations. But what would happen is that one time I got to tell you how I started sharing this with people. I got in my mind one day that I would put ketchup in my panties. Because if he thinks I'm on my period, it will bother me. So we used to keep ketchup in the refrigerator. And I remember the feeling of that cold ketchup. So I see a bottle of ketchup with condensation on it. That's a trigger for me. So our ketchup does not go in the refrigerator. And it's funny, he said, well, how do I know that's not ketchup? I thought I was going to die. But I was talking to someone about it. And the lady said, she looked at me, this is a coworker. And she looked at me and she said, well, Claresa, she said, for me, it's mayonnaise. I was stumped because I had no clue. And that's when the penny dropped for me. And I realized that there are more people out there than I thought. And I know that now these people don't look like what you think they should look like. They could be anybody sitting next to you that has a story to tell of similar circumstances or situations. And I thought, oh my goodness, okay, so I got to do this. So I started it out just as workshops. And from there, I had a summit one year. I was like, this is kind of cool. And I said, okay, God, I need to be able to reach more people. How am I going to reach more people? How am I going to do this? Because remember, I said also, I want to be able to heal people from afar. And it just fell in my spirit to start a talk show. Okay, because I'm like, I had a manager describe me as Wile E. Coyote. You know how he'll run and go off the cliff and then realize there's nothing there? That's me. So I just said, okay, I'll start a talk show. I had no clue what it takes to do a talk show. I just called some friends and I said, oh, do a talk show. You want to help? They were like, yeah, we'll help you. So we started this talk show. And when I tell you that people came from nowhere, they came from people I didn't even know. And I was so grateful that they trusted me to tell their stories. And many of them were telling their stories in public for the very first time. Their family, some of the stories their family and friends didn't know about. And they wouldn't know until they watched the show. When you watch the first season, I think it's 11 or 12 episodes. But when you watch it, you'll see like, oh my gosh, the screen is green. Wait, the plants are turning colors. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know we couldn't put plants in front of green screen. But we did it. We did three seasons. We won 3 awards for it. And we continue to help people tell their stories and give their voices. And honestly, for me, it's cathartic. It's the more I help people, the more it helps me heal. And the more also it gives me courage to speak more and to speak louder and to speak life into people. Because people need to understand, and I want them to understand that no matter what you're going through, all of that ugliness and all of that darkness, that there truly is life after. Once you come out on the other side, there's life after. But I need people to be able to open their mouths and speak their truths. Because, when you're going through your own personal hell, unless somebody has said something about it, you don't know. You think you're the only person. I know I did. I thought I was the only person in the world that this was going to. And what did I do? As a kid, how did I make God mad? What did I do in a previous life? And then on top of that, now I'm going to hell. Now I'm going to hell when I told the truth, I'm going to hell. So now I got a problem with him. I got a problem with God. I got a problem with this whole situation. But had I not gone through a lot of this, who knows where I would be.
Wow, there's so much there. So I was just sitting here thinking, here's this little girl trying to protect herself with ketchup. Like, with ketchup. It's just the vision, the picture. It's so scary and so, like, you just want to hug that little girl and be like, you're okay. We got you. We're going to come after this guy. And then to think about you, that dream of knowing that God was saying, okay, here's the devil. Here's Jesus, but I ain't bringing you here yet. You got work to do. We're going to use this message. And like you were saying, like, we have to use our voice. And if we don't, then I often say on the show here that we come into this world where we've already got talents, God or whatever you believe in, it's already put talents into you and it's got that plan into you. But if you don't do anything to massage that plan and work that plan and learn what that truth is that you have to get out and share, then you're cheating yourself, but you're cheating others, including me, from learning. If you weren't here to share your story, I would have never thought that could be a sign, even just ketchup being around a little girl or something. That could be
Yes.
different signs. And that's why I always like, even with the loss of our son being just this past July at 25, being the coach I am, I know that there's got to be a lesson in this. And I could sit in my bed all day long and people would think that would be okay. She's depressed, whatever. And I have gone through this, just interviewed Seth Santoro, and he's amazing. He's written this book called Smile from the Inside Out. And it's like getting past through trauma. And the M in smile stands for acceptance. And I learned that I was just saying I accepted his loss, but I wasn't really accepting it. And so as I decided to start sharing the story and like sharing my grief journey and how grief has come, it's funny how you were saying that you start seeing people around you who have the same story. I have friends that I know dearly who either right after me or just before me lost their children as well. And then it was like, I was describing it in my grief group this past week. I was describing it like, you buy a new car and you see your car everywhere. You see your car. Oh yeah. It was like, I was feeling like that on social media and through friends. Like they just lost their children, or somebody I knew like a few months after we lost Matthew, lost their son through a road rage incident. And it's just mind boggling how that all intertwines together. But if all those people are intertwined together, don't share that story, we can't empower the people to know that share your story because you can change somebody's life or you can educate somebody. And I just feel like in some ways it's selfish when we don't share our story.
I think that when we share our stories, it becomes a healing balm for us also. Because if we don't share our stories, oftentimes people won't come back and share theirs with us. So it's nice to be able to say, oh my gosh, you went through that too. So you understand what I'm going through. You may not feel exactly the same way that I feel because of whatever other circumstances play into it, but at least you understand. And what I have discovered is that some of the strongest people that I have met never would have guessed. When I tell you never would have guessed, went through similar situations as myself until they said something. You too. So we have to give voice to these things. We have to not only save ourselves, but in the midst of doing that, save other people and help people to know that they're not alone. They don't have to commit suicide, that there's life after. You don't have to walk around looking like what you've been through, because honestly, yes, there are people who do wear a lot of their trauma as kind of this badge of honor and woe is me. But don't do that. There are so many people out there who are doing amazing things in spite of.
I so agree with you. Yeah, if we wear that armor, I also feel like I've got a few friends that they carry that trauma with them and that they keep bringing more trauma to them. It's like they become this magnet, right? So Claresa, so tell us, we're talking about how we share. So how do you work with somebody to help them share their story? Like how does somebody go, I'm going to go Claresa and share my story? How do they find you? How do they know that? What are they learning from you? And how are you inspiring others to share their stories?
I think part of the way that I do it is telling my stories. And it's not always necessarily the whole story, but just pieces and some thought processes. I'll post on social media and then people will come in and they'll respond underneath that. But oftentimes, funny enough, people won't respond publicly. Somebody will slide into my inbox or my DMs, as they say, and send me a message. And they'll say, I understand, I've been through that. Or I've had someone say, I'm so happy that I watched this particular episode because now I understand mother better. And often people won't say anything because they had got courage enough to tell their stories. So they will either say it to me privately, or if they see me in public, they'll say something about it. So it's a funny dichotomy. People don't just call and say, "Oh yeah, that was me too." They don't.
So,
I,
so what?
again, the-
Sorry. So I was going to
Okay.
ask you, so once somebody says, I'm ready to share my story, so what is that process you take them through to help them share that story?
I have a long conversation with them. And if they're going to come on the show, they have a long conversation with whoever the host is going to be for that show. And we make sure that there's a safe place that we decide to film, and that they know that if they decide, yeah, I've told this story, but I don't want to share it. And I've had that happen a couple of times where people we videotape recorded them and they had regret afterwards for telling it. I don't know if it was because they weren't really ready. So they asked, I didn't air it. And I could have, because they signed all the releases. But in respect to how they feel, we didn't. But yeah, we have conversations with them, make sure that they are ready to do that. And we make it safe. They can bring whatever support system they need to bring with them. And we film that thing. I'll tell you this story real quick. I had an incident where we were going to film a young lady. So I knew what her story was. Period. I knew the front to back. And I had to go out of town because I had a death in my family. But I'm coming back, and we're going to film on a Sunday. I'm coming back and I'm flying down here. Didn't get a ticket, but I'm flying. I make it in there. I missed her interview because the show is set up in a few segments. So there's the story of the trauma, the story of what great things they're doing now, and the psychologist that comes on afterwards. And the psychologist gives the viewers tools and resources that they can use if they're going through similar situations. But I make it there and all I hear is the psychologist. And she's not talking about anything I talked about with this lady. But I knew to be quiet because they were filming. What's going on here? And it wasn't until afterwards that I found out that I think the night before, a couple of days before, the story that she told me she was going to tell, she decided that she would tell another story that she had not told. She told the story previously was for domestic violence. But she decided on my show that she would talk about sexual abuse as a child. And that's when we got there. There was no one in the studio but just the crew and her husband. That's it. No one else was in there. And I will tell you this. First of all, I was shocked. I was honored that she chose our show to do it. But what blows me away is how I feel about the guests that do come on the show. The fact that you trust us enough to tell your story and to share it with dignity and to not make it this whole game show, talk show that I'm sure you've seen before, but to honor how you're feeling, to honor what impacts not only what it's going to have on you, but your family and friends as well. And we are preparing to film season 4. So I'm excited about that. But I'm also working on a documentary. And the documentary will focus on child suicide. And we will talk to people who have had attempted suicide as a child or had suicide ideations. But we'll also talk to family and friends of those children, those adult children, they're adults now, and some of them who have children who were successful in their suicide attempt. But we're going to look at it through the lens of social media, politics, religion, the justice system, everything that we could think of to bring light to that. Because that's something we don't talk about a lot, counseling side.
Yeah, we don't.
I've got to lock down some things.
I'm really excited about this because the platform you're sharing and you, whenever you spoke to that young lady, you created that safe space for her that she felt like, okay, I'm okay. And I think that's really important so that we know we have the safe space to share our story, no matter how, what the story is. We have to be able to have that safe space to share, because I feel like if you don't have that space to share it, you don't get it out. There's that trust. And wow, I'm so happy and glad that she met you to be like, I want to share this story, and it's a safe space for me to do. And then to create those spaces, I think it's really powerful so they can share their stories and carry on. And then what you have upcoming. Yeah, you're right. Childhood suicide. It's just like, I see that, like you said, on social media and stuff. And I remember growing up, back when we grew up, I've been married for 35 years, with Chuck for 38 years. But when I was in school, I graduated high school at 82, but when I was like elementary, middle school, I hated my name. I was bullied so much. And in today's world, it was bullying. There was a bullyism that was happening to me. And you don't realize it. We didn't know it back then. And so my maiden name was Nap. I was short. So I used to get told, Pearl, go take a nap. I used to call Minnie Pearl, all these names. And I would come home and be like, my mom, can I just please change my name? I don't like my name. And now I love my name. I use it in so many different ways. But you're right. There's things that we need that safe space for our youngest to talk about. And it's great that these adults are going to share so that maybe parents can learn from them as well, for things to watch for and all that. I just think it's so amazing. I love what you're doing, and I hope you keep doing it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. In whatever way we can support you, we would love to support you here, because we know it's really powerful. And we have a nonprofit we support it's called Unsilenced Voices. And it's about abuse and things like that. And her name is Michelle Jewsbury. I think you should interview her. I'll connect you with her. We love Michelle to death. So I'd love to get you guys connected as well.
Okay.
And yeah, I'll put you guys together. So we're going to do a little shift here. So on our self-care Sheroes, we talk about how taking care of ourselves is so important. And I know I told you we're going to talk about this, and you gave me a little chuckle and everything. But I want people to understand the honesty that sometimes it's hard to get self-care in. So what's self-care? If Claresa could describe her self-care today that she does for herself, what is it?
Very nominal. I don't do a whole lot of self-care, unfortunately. And I think a lot of it is because growing up and being the eldest, I've been raising people all my life. And so I'm still trying to my siblings are grown. They have kids. Some of them have grandkids. And I'm still trying to be the boss there. I'm still the boss. And I'm that fixer. So there's always something that needs to be fixed. But I rarely take the time to fix myself. I'll decide that I'm going to stay home and I'm not going to do anything, and I'm just going to relax, and that never happens. I keep having this fantasy of going off somewhere and just renting a cabin with no Wi-Fi and just being there. That has not happened yet. But I got to work on it. Honestly, I know people may come on and say, I do this for self-care. I don't.
But I love your honesty.
I'm really bad at it.
That's what I love. That's why we have the show. I love your honesty. You're sharing what many people feel, that I don't have time for self-care. God bless you. I can't imagine 11 years old being the eldest, but like, you're still trying to play that role in some ways. There's many women listening today that will tell me, get out of here. Self-care. Yeah, get lost. Maybe when I'm dead, I'll hear it often. And I'm like, no, find 5 minutes. Just even if you get up 5 minutes early, somewhere's in your day, 5 minutes just to sit and breathe.
I was in the hospital few months ago, and when I could get on my phone, I was on the phone trying to handle some business, and I'm in the hospital.
But
my brain doesn't shut down. It's easier said than
done. And I've been there.
Something I have to do.
I get it. I've been there. I was that person who said yes to everybody, fixing everything, all that stuff. And then it hit me that I have things and dreams I want to do. And can they do this without me? Yes. So I released it to them. But it's hard work, Claresa. It's not easy. It takes time. It's not a light bulb goes off and comes back on, right? It's like you have to work on it. And that's why when I coach and I talk about putting your cape on first so that you can better take care of it. And you said you're in a hospital a few months ago. I don't know why, but your body will tell you when you're not taking care of yourself. We have a good friend, Ida, that's going to be talking at a conference we're doing on January 7th, the Kingdom Conference. And she's talked about that earlier today with me. But I think it's like, if there's one thing for me that I want to make sure I always empower others is even if you get 2 minutes somewheres, and I have a big thing at 2:45 every day, my alarm goes off on my phone. And that's my breath alarm. And my breath alarm means I have to take 2 minutes to breathe. And if that's just, you can give me 2 minutes, Claresa, get out of here, bro. I promise you, Claresa, if you can give me 2 minutes to breathe, it would be amazing.
I know. I have an iWatch and it has a little thing on it that says, okay, time to take a breath. I look at that thing and dismiss it.
Oh my gosh. I think too that you're what most women say out there. You are speaking truth. You're not. And I think we all understand that life gets really busy. And I love that vision you put about the cabin. I try to do once a quarter a staycation. Sometimes it's a staycation that's something that I can go do to build myself up. Like the end of next month, I'm going to a mastermind. So I'm going to go away, but I'm going to do things that will fill my cup to better me as my coaching that I do. And just taking that time, like you said, when you put that vision out there, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. And that's why too, like I do women's retreats every September. Next year, we're going to the Gulf Shores of Alabama, September 14th to the 18th. And the retreat is a self-care retreat. It's leave your phone off. We're not messing with our phones. We have no makeup on. We're in our PJs all weekend. We go on the beach, we go swimming, whatever, but we work on things around self-care. We have amazing speakers that come in and talk about exactly how they went from a Claresa to a Pearl and how to go, I don't have time for self-care, but this is how I do it now. So it's amazing to watch the transformation over the last 6 years that we worked with women to do that. But what you state is truth. Women are overwhelmed. They're running a house. They're the CEO of the house. I don't like the stay-at-home mom word because I believe you're in a home. There's 4 walls there. You are running a business while everybody's at work or school, right? And even if if you work out of the house, you're coming home. Women, we put a lot on our plate to do that. And I believe that there's a way to become a CEO of the household by finding out who's good at the dishes, who's good at the clothes, who's going to help cook, find their roles that they're good in the home. And I love your honesty. And I know that women are listening going, I agree with her. I don't got time for self-care. And I'm probably going to check on you later this week and go, have you breathed yet today?
Listen, okay, so this is really going to sound off. You're empty nesters. So it's just my husband and I'm still too busy. So, oh no. I think what happens is, honestly, because I'm that fixer and I like control, I'm not very good at delegating. And I have a conference coming up January 21st. And I have an agenda or I have a team and I'll say, okay, so you're responsible for this and this. We got a whole list of stuff. And then I go back into the spreadsheet and I'm like, okay, I do that. And it's not even my responsibility, but because I happen to have 5 minutes, Pearl, I decided, I'm going to go ahead and knock that out. I'm going to go ahead and knock that out. So I know when they go back and look at the spreadsheet, they'll be, why did she have us here? Why are we here?
True.
I don't know how not to do that. I don't know. And I think part of it is because even growing up, there's been so much disappointment and people saying that they're going to do stuff and they not do it. So I try not to leave myself open to that. So I try to make sure everything's done how it's supposed to be done. Nobody's dropped the ball.
No, and I've been there, done that where I'm part of the team. Why is she doing it? Let me do it for her. Let go. So I'm going to send you this, but those that are listening that Claresa, it sounds like she's describing you. I'm going to send her this, but you should go to pearlssurvey.com, pearlsurvey.com/PQ quiz. So that's pearlsurvey.com/PQ quiz. And it's going to tell you where you stand on your mental fitness. It's going to tell you if you're a fixer, if you're a pleaser. It's going to give you all that. And I would love to see how Claresa's score comes in. I'm going to send it to you and have you take a look at it.
Okay.
So, this has been fun. I can't believe our time's almost up. But what I'd love for you to share with us is, how can people find you if they want to reach out to you? They've heard us talk today and they're like, gosh, I would love to talk to Claresa about my story.
Oh, awesome. They can email me at info@claresabaggs.com, and you'll have my name on the video, but I'll spell it for the people that are listening. It is ClaresaBaggs.com. You can email me there, and I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you. My website is ClaresaBaggs.com. If you go on there, you can connect with me there. I have slots available to talk to anybody. I love speaking. I'm always open for speaking engagements. And as I mentioned earlier, we are hosting a conference January 21st, and it's called Still Surviving the Release. And it's the release because we're going to get rid of a bunch of garbage we've been holding on to, and we're going to release it into the atmosphere every year. Every year, Pearl, you know this. At the beginning of the year, people say, you know what? I'm going to this, and I'm going to that. I'm going to get a relationship. I'm going to fix some credit. I'm going to all kinds of things. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to do all of this stuff. But a lot of times we get stuck in the old things that we're doing. We get stuck in those old habits, and we don't make room in our lives for all this newness and all this greatness and this wonderful potential that's awaiting us. And if you have a closed fist and you're holding on to all that other stuff, a closed fist cannot receive. So we're going to release all of that stuff into the atmosphere. We're going to give it over to the universe, and we want to start brand new. We're going to talk about mental health, mental wellness. We're going to talk about taking care of yourself. So I need to sit in my own seat. And we have some phenomenal speakers. Pearl, you should come. Let me know if you want to come. And people that are listening, if you want to come, just go to the event and look for Still Surviving the Release. It's going to be life-changing.
That is such a great title. And you have to let me know next time you do it, because I'm actually going to be in Connecticut that weekend. I'm going up to see my business coach. But let me know when you do it, and I'd love to come share or sit in it. And I love that you're going to sit in your seat during self-care.
I am.
All right. So before we go, one of the things that we do on the show, Claresa, and this is a lot of fun, but we have these cards. They're called Better Questions, Better Life. And I get no kickback. My friend and her friend put them together. There's 70 different cards that have different questions that on there. And it's all about, you can use them for doing self-care meditation, or you can just you can just answer the question or put it in your pocket or whatever for the day. So I'm going to shuffle the cards, and you're going to tell me when to stop, and we're going to ask you what question.
Okay.
So here we go. You tell me when to stop.
Okay, stop.
All right. So your question says, what am I worth?
My goodness. You know what? That's a question and answer that I am truly working on. And I'll tell you why. That's a great question. And I hope I have a good answer. I was a kid. My maiden name is Marcel. And my mom's husband decided that at that point, he was going to start calling us Marshits. So they used to tell us, he and my mother used to tell us that we were shit, never were shit, never would be shit. You have to be careful what you tell your kids. And that ingrained in us. And I know it ingrained in me. And taking it into adulthood. And at one point, I used to work for a major insurance company. And I was a trainer in IT. And I used to get this curriculum done and learn the system and had to teach it. And I was the only person in all of Florida at one point to teach this. So people would drive in, fly in for me to teach. But every so often, like once a month and then quarterly and yearly, we write our own little mini reviews. And when it was time for me to write my review, my sheet would be blank. And I knew that I was doing all this work, but I could not write good things about myself. I can write great things about everyone else, but about myself, in my mind, who wants to hear from somebody who ain't shit? And I carried that with me as an adult, even when it came to writing my bios and stuff. I will take what someone else wrote in it from an interview and just copy and cut and paste. And that's how I would format and the one that you read is one that someone challenged me and made me write that bio. So even though I'm out here, and that's why I said the work I'm doing is cathartic to me, it's helping me to heal, I'm not there. And so I don't necessarily understand my value or my worth. And so it even surprises me when people come and say, hey, I really look forward to reading your post, or you're really encouraging me and you're really doing this. And it's such a great pleasure to speak with you. And I'm really, it shocks me. Like, really? Me? You want to talk to me? Okay. I don't understand why, but okay. So that's a great question. I don't have a great answer because I'm still working on it.
I love your honesty in the answer. And wow, you're right. What we tell our children is what it sets like a big picture. And I think it's a study, whatever we say to our kids or do with our kids up until 7 years old, it shapes them. That's what shapes them. That's what they believe. And for you to be told that as a child and then to carry that forward. And I feel like you have so much worth. And I love that you're working on that still. And I also think it's important for listeners to understand you are the prime example of a coach who knows that we still have work to do. Coaches are not perfect. Yes, there's always something in our life we're working on. Yeah. And it just blows my mind when somebody goes, oh, my coach said she lives her life the way she coaches. I'm like, yeah, don't think so. I bet you I could go open up her book and find something that's not perfect for her. But I just love that you share that and the honesty that you shared that, because I see your worth is exactly what you're doing. It's the work that you're doing, that you're bringing forward, giving people the opportunity to share their voice that's going to allow them to heal like you're healing. And I think for me, when I look at you and I've heard you today speak and talk and listening to you and your story, I know that's what your worth is, that you are worth somebody knowing that we can survive. It might not be easy. There's going to be triggers, but no matter what, we can survive. We can keep moving forward. It's never an ending. Like we said at the beginning of the show, you don't put a period at the end of Survivor. We are still every day working on it. And I feel like your worth is showing you are the walking example of that.
Thank you for that. That means a lot to me.
You are so welcome. This has been a blast. I've loved having you on the show. I can't wait for the listeners to reach out to you. We're going to put everything about Claresa where you can reach her and find her. And like I said earlier, if you're not sure, as Claresa said, she was very honest about where she was in her self-care and so forth. And I loved her honesty today. That's what I always ask for when we have a guest come on. And I would encourage you, like I did her, to go to Pearl's survey. So that's 2 S's, pearlsurvey.com/PQ quiz and see where you are falling in your mental fitness today. And I'd love to talk to you about that. So as we close out the show, I'm going to remind everybody again that we come into this world as this oyster. We're a little, rough on the outside. That oyster's got some roughness from twirling around the ocean. But once you open up that oyster on the inside, you have this amazing pearl on the inside. And I hope you go find your inner pearl of greatness. Have a great day.
Hello, sunshine.